Hey, what's going on, guys? I hope you're having an amazing day. Today we're going to be talking about shadowboxing, how to use it, having a purpose in your training. It's an exercise which is rarely used in karate training, which is really odd because it's a fantastic tool and can be used in so many different ways, such as warming up and simulating your fighting, practicing those techniques to master your muscle memory. So I've included a few clips from professional fighters, and I've left their names and what martial arts they do on screen now. We're going to talk a little bit about shadowboxing. It's not just a warm-up. While it's great for warming up the body, it's also great for training the correct fight muscles, no matter what style or martial art you're training, as I said. Being able to visualize an opponent is one of the best advantages you can really give yourself while training. It's well and good to swing around your arms and legs. You'll start sweating, you'll start huffing and puffing, but if there's no real goal to your shadowboxing, then you aren't really training your martial art. Okay, so to begin with, shadowboxing is an exercise where you move about and simulate fighting. It doesn't have to be just boxing like the name implies. Throwing kicks, elbows and knees are also key in your karate training, so be sure to use those as well. Like I said before, shadowboxing can be used as a warm-up, but it's a fantastic solo tool to use when you don't have a partner in addition to your bag work. But you have to train your shadowboxing correctly. You are able to build the correct muscle memory the more you shadowbox and go through the motions. It's like anything you practice really. The more you spend time and practice, the better you will become. Your techniques will become more and more like reactions, which at the end of the day is exactly what we want. How can we use it? Well, you can train shadowboxing in any open space, large or small. And while large may seem obvious to some, small isn't necessarily that obvious. How do we train in such a small space? Easy. Change your shadowboxing so you're up close and personal with your opponent, maybe engaging in a clinch or having short range fighting techniques. Use elbows, knees, headbutts, sort of throws, anything like that. Different clinch grips also work. And then of course with a bigger space you can throw a lot more kicks, longer punches, and you can sprawl. Try and constantly shift directions, change angles, move around, don't be static. The fight is never going to be on one spot. Use combinations as much as you can. Try and simulate fighting as much as possible. But Sensei, what do you mean when you say have a specific purpose? Well, try and pick an aspect of your training or a specific combination you want to focus on. Perhaps it's ending every hand combination with a low kick. Or what about stepping in with the knee and following after with an elbow? Get really creative and have a focused mindset to get the most out of your training. It's the same thing I say when it comes to sparring in class. Always have a goal when you spar. That way you're constantly and consistently training specific techniques and you'll see a much faster rate of improvement. And treat it like a real sparring session. Don't just flail about swinging your arms and legs, working up a sweat and getting tired. And the most important thing when it comes to shadowboxing, aside from throwing those techniques, is remembering to block and dodge attacks as well. You aren't always going to be on the offensive in sparring, so you shouldn't be always on the offensive in your shadowboxing either. Remember, you are trying to simulate how you would fight in a real fight, okay? And paying close attention to the techniques you are throwing when you're blocking and countering, it's also as important as just throwing out those attacks. But let's say you aren't into the combat or sport style of karate, which are the main two styles that use shadowboxing. I rarely see shadowboxing used in point style karate, which is ridiculous because it's just the same thing as fighting, you're just pulling your punches back. All the aspects of shadowboxing still work to great effect with that point style karate. Anyway, you only like the traditional style, which doesn't necessarily have shadowboxing. Actually, it does. And it's in two parts. The first part is your kata. Everybody knows that kata is an excellent tool to help you train specific movements and techniques. Not only that, but the fast and slow movements in the kata helps to improve your timing and how fast or slow those techniques should be when put in a real life situation. It's literally the traditional form of shadowboxing. And another way you can train shadowboxing with your traditional style of karate is by going and flowing through the motions of your bunkai or application, whether you're clinching or wrestling with an opponent, whether you're taking someone down and finishing the attack or opponent off on the floor. There are different and many ways you can train your bunkai and application with your traditional style of karate while using shadowboxing. Alright guys, that was a quick video on the very basics of shadowboxing, why you should use it and how to train in it. I would like all of you to try and use at least one round of shadowboxing. Try and incorporate it into every single training session that you do. It's excellent, like I said, as a warm-up. You can use it as a cool down, make it part of your main training session, add it onto your bag work, pad work, etc. There's no reason why you shouldn't be shadowboxing, because it only requires yourself. You don't need any partners, nobody needs to watch you, you only need a timer. Heck, if you don't want to have a timer, you just want to go for 5 minutes, maybe 10 minutes, go through the motions. It doesn't have to be super fast, but also don't make it super slow. Try and focus on something very specific and you'll see that your training will improve drastically. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed that video. If you have any questions, feel free to let me know. Us.